Welcome to the Quick Start workout number 2. Again, we're looking at doing a series that has no equipment, so you can get up and running right away and learning a lot of the language and basic exercises that feed into so many of our workouts. Sometimes I might say something like cat stretch or tall kneeling, and hopefully you've learned some of those basic body positions or shapes of the body in these quick start workouts so they easily translate into some of the higher level or longer workouts. Let's begin. We're going to start, as I said, in tall kneeling. So we're going to begin on both of our knees, put pads under your knees if you need, and the fronts of the foot are down on the mat. You want to make sure your pelvis is already in a neutral position, and we're just going to begin with the breath. So we're going to take a nice big breath into our rib cage, roll our shoulders forward, lift them up, and roll them back and down on the exhale. So it's an inhale, pull the shoulders forward, lift them up to the ears as you fill the belly with air, fill up through the ribs, and then allow the breath to release and roll the shoulders back and down. Inhale forward, and back and down. One more time, forward, lift, back, and down, and reverse. We're going to squeeze our shoulder blades together, then pull our shoulder blades up to the ears, or shoulders up to the ears with the inhale, and exhale, roll them forward and let them drop down. We're doing 4 reps of every exercise, so feel free to go at a pace that feels good for you. You don't have to follow me exactly. Know once you've done your 4 reps, you're good to go, and whatever pace you did them in with your particular breath rate is perfectly fine. Inhale, fill that belly, feel the ribs, circle the shoulders up, and let them fall forward. From here, we're just going to raise the arms up with the inhale. As you raise the arms up and stretch up, you want to make sure that you're lengthening through the back of the body. You're not allowing the ribs to flare with the breath or the back to arch. You want to be able to keep the hips forward, stretch up and back behind you, and then let the arms drop back down on the exhale. You're going to inhale, reach up. Imagine stretching the arms to the ceiling. Fill the belly up with air, and let it drop down. Notice as you fill the belly with air and also fill the rib cage, it helps to give you a sense of lengthening through your body. The inhalation almost like fills you up and makes you feel like you're stretching really, really tall. And on the exhale, it's quite natural as the ribs drop down, the shoulders drop down. It feels like you're just softening everything. One more time, inhale to fill up. And exhale to drop down. We're going to go scissor arms now and look for more range of motion. So you're going to go inhale, reach one arm up, the opposite hand is going to reach down to the floor, and you're going to squeeze the shoulder blades behind you to draw the arms back. Inhale as you flow through the scissor position, and then exhale, squeeze the shoulder blades behind you. One more time in each position. We're going to go inhale as you interchange, exhale as you squeeze. Number 4, inhale as you interchange, exhale as you squeeze them together. I'm just going to turn to face you now because we're going to do a lateral flexion stretch. Keeping our knees nice and wide, we want to keep our hips set forward. You're going to go inhale up to the ceiling with one arm. The opposite hand is on your thigh. You're going to slide your hand down your thigh as you stretch the opposing hand to the ceiling. And then allow your hips to drift sideways slightly as you reach up and over. This should help you stretch through your lower back on the open side. You're going to take a nice big breath. Direct that breath into your lower back to increase the stretch, and now you have to brace to help yourself return to the start position. If that's a lot, please use your bottom hand to help support you on the way up. We interchange the arms on the inhale, stretch up. On the exhale, slide this hand down your thigh, stretch to the ceiling, and then reach up and over. Keep the hips square and forward. The tendency is to want to sit back, so make sure you're driving those hips forward as you inhale. Fill the lower back with air, and exhale to return. Inhale to interchange the arms. Exhale, lift up and over. Inhale to stay. Exhale to return. One more time, inhale. Exhale, reach up and over. Inhale to stay. Exhale to lift and return. We're going to turn now into our 4-point position, and we're going to repeat our arm circles, but this time instead of our arms moving, they're going to be fixed on the floor. So it's almost like our body has to circle around our arms. It's kind of weird, but I hope you can get it. We're going to come into the 4-point position. Nice wide spread of the fingers, shoulders over the wrists, hips directly over the knees, ideally not sitting back. We're going to begin by shrugging our shoulders up to our ears. then drawing our shoulder blades together behind our back, pressing them down and pushing away. You can kind of think of it like a choo-choo train. It's kind of like the pistons of a steam train, a steam engine, if you think about it like that. It's like the shoulders are moving in a circular motion, and ideally your elbows are not bending. Ideally, they might soften slightly, and reverse it. So we're gonna go shoulders down, allow the shoulder blades to come together, then lift the shoulder blades up to the ears and push them away. Shoulders down, pull the shoulder blades together, draw them up to the ears and push them away. Shoulders down, together, that's called retraction. Elevation through the shoulder blades and press them away. Shoulders down, draw them together, bring them up to the ears and push them away. Set them in a neutral position. So shoulders slightly drawn down and not collapsed, but not fully pressing away, just in somewhere in the middle. Okay, from here we're gonna practice our hovers. You're just gonna turn your toes under, take a nice big breath into your belly, getting a big diaphragmatic breath. From here, you're gonna brace and lift into the hover position. So you're just hovering the knees an inch from the floor. Sometimes people find this a lot of work in their thighs. Typically, that means that they've drifted back a little bit. So you wanna make sure that you're keeping the weight in your upper body so you feel it's quite even between your upper body, your torso, and your legs. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to lift. Inhale to stay. And exhale to lower. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to brace and lift. This is called the 4-point hover. Inhale to stay. Exhale to lower. One more time. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to lift. Inhale to stay. Exhale to lower. Holding this position, we're gonna put the tops of the feet back down. You're gonna slide your left leg down the mat until the leg is straight. It's still touching the floor though. When you do that, try to resist the urge to shift the weight into the supporting side. You should still be quite balanced through the 4-point position of your body. Holding this position, lengthen through your straightened leg, squeeze your hips, squeeze your glute muscles, and then lift that leg up in line with the body, or as high as you can without collapsing at all through your belly, and lower it back down. So what I typically will say to people is imagine you're about to initiate a cat stretch, which is that little pelvic tuck motion. If you do that, you're less likely to lift and want to collapse through your lower back. So I say inhale, prepare, brace, initiate through a little bit of a cat, and then squeeze your hip to lift. And it usually keeps you in a really nice neutral position. And lower down. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, squeeze and lift. Inhale to stay. Exhale to lower. One more time. Inhale. Exhale, lift. Inhale, hold. Exhale, lower. Slide that leg in, and ideally there's not much of a shift back because we didn't shift into the supporting side. Similarly, brace, send the opposite leg down the floor. Take an inhale to prepare. Do a little bit of a cat stretch before you squeeze the hip and lift. Hold for a breath and lower. I think it was a hold for a breath actually. It's just an exhale, lift, inhale, lower. 2 more times. Exhale, lift, inhale, lower. Exhale, lift, inhale, lower. Sliding that leg in, keeping the knees hip width apart. We're gonna do a donkey kick now. I like donkey kicks because they really emphasize being able to activate and isolate through the hip. So again, we're thinking about the body not shifting very much. We're gonna do and keep the 90-degree bend in a knee and lift the leg up until it's in line with the body, trying to maintain in your mind's eye 90-degree bend in the knee. You're squeezing the buttocks to try and lift your foot to the ceiling, but again, not collapsing through your lower back at all. And lower it back down. We're gonna do 4 like that. Lifting through that single leg, squeezing through the buttocks to elevate through the foot, and lowering it back down. 2 more. Lift, squeeze through the hip. I'm not shifting my weight as I lift that leg. Notice it can lift and lower without me rocking from side to side. That's ideal. And lower it back down. Other side. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to lift. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Inhale to lower. 2 more. Exhale to lift and squeeze through that hip and lower. 1 last time, makes 4. Lift, squeeze, and lower. Okay, I'm sure you've had enough on your wrists, especially if you're new to these workouts. Decompress them a little bit, send them in the opposite direction, kind of stretching them gently like so, or even just putting a little bit of pressure with your body weight on your wrists on the mat. Let's come off them though. Let's come into our side lying position. Basically laying down on your side and making your bottom hand a pillow. You can have an actual pillow here if you want to, but you can just use your bottom arm as long as you don't have any particularly shoulder issues. You should be able to put your bottom arm underneath. If you can't, then obviously get a pillow. From here, my hip is stacked, so my knees are able to come together easily in line with one another. And so you're slightly rolled forward. It should feel like your hips are slightly rolling forward. You're not rolling back, otherwise you'll definitely see separation through the knees. We're gonna do a clamshell exercise, and this is to help get some mind-body connection with the deep muscles of the hips. So yes, we use the big muscles of the hips a lot in all movement endeavors, but it's really helpful if you can start to become more aware of the smaller muscles of the hips. It will really create refined movement as we progress, okay? So we're gonna keep the hips nice and stable. You can use your hand on your hip to give you some feedback about that. You're then gonna just lift your top knee. Now the goal here, this sounds wild, is she even doing anything, is to be able to squeeze your feet together a little bit. Lift your top knee as much as you can without your hips even slightly rolling back, and you'll want to roll them back. So you want to keep your hips forward. Think of squeezing this top knee up, and you're activating through small muscles of the hips. Now, I have a very narrow hip pelvis, so my movement is not very big and this hip is not amazing. So you might have more movement, and that's fine, as long as your hips aren't rolling back to create that movement, okay? So whatever is natural for you. In this position, you should be feeling small muscles that feel sort of deep in this hip capsule, and you're really squeezing them to maximally lift the knee up. Okay? And then when you lower back down, the knee should be back in alignment. So you're gonna lift and hold and squeeze. I want you to imagine that you have a sponge in your hip, and you're squeezing that sponge, trying to wring all the water out of it. So you're not just sort of lifting and holding it statically. You're thinking, is there a little bit more water? Is there a little bit more water? Or in this case, range to get out of the hip joint, okay? One more time, lifting and squeezing, 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 and letting it come down. Now the next exercise is just gonna be a side leg lift, but I want to see if you can notice the muscles you were using in the last exercise, the deep hip rotators, which are different than the muscles we're going to use for this next exercise, but they're still smaller muscles of the hip. So we're going glute medius. Your leg is straight in line with your body. Imagine stretching through this top side of the body, and then you're just lifting the leg up as much as you can without pulling the hip in towards you. So you're lengthening through the leg. Now in this position, you just feel small muscles at the top of the hip, which definitely feel different from our last exercise. And you're just gonna lift and hold, again, trying to increase the range at the end of the lift without moving the hip joint itself, and lower back down. Lift and squeeze. These muscles can be really dormant in so many of us because we don't move like crabs, we don't move sideways. So they're not muscles that we activate a lot in the way that we often move, but they're really important for walking gaits and running gaits in particular. They're stabilizers for those movement patterns. So important muscles to strengthen and lower down. Okay, so we're just doing 4. We'll build up our reps over time. Let's come to the other side. So we're just gonna lay down on our side here, making a nice pillow with our bottom arm. Knees are tucked up again. Make sure your body is straight. So the tendency when we lay down on our side is to sort of curl into a fetal position. So you want to keep your torso open even though your knees are tucking up about 90 degrees. Again, hand on the hip to give you feedback, and lift this top knee. Hold it like you're squeezing that sponge in the center of your hip joint and letting it come down. We're doing that 4 times. Squeeze, 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 and lower. 2 more times. Lift and squeeze. We obviously pay quite a bit less attention to the breath in this particular exercise, but it's not that you're not stabilizing your pelvis. You are a little bit with your core, especially your underside obliques, but we're just paying slightly less attention. I totally lost how many reps you've done there. You're supposed to do 4. I'm going to do an extra one, just in case. So you're going to straighten through your top leg. Imagine you're stretching through the top. You're going to keep that pelvis set in place, tap the floor, and then lift and lengthen through the top side of the body as you lift, feeling the top of the hip now. Lift and reach and squeeze. Now you might notice when you come to this side that as you lift, you're going to feel your bottom hip, which you didn't feel before, but that hip is now a little bit pre-fatigued, and it is actually working to help stabilize your pelvis in this position. So you are probably going to feel it in this second set of the exercise, the second side of the exercises. Lift and reach. Great. Okay. From here, we're going to rock on up. We're going to go into one of more of our standing shapes that we need to learn for our general workouts, which is our lunge shape. So even though it's in standing, we're going to get into it from our kneeling position. So we're going to come into our regular lunge, but you're going to bring your hands down onto to the instep of your front foot. And then you're going to walk your back knee back. Now, if it's hard to reach the instep of your front foot, please just use the stabilization on your knee or give yourself some blocks, one of the two. Here, I want you to keep this front knee stacked over your ankle or slightly in front of your ankle, and you're working to get your back knee as far back as possible. Now, this will naturally be a stretch for your pelvis already. When you're ready, you're going to turn your back toes under and lift your back leg until it's straight. So this is our deep lunge stretch for now, or deep lunge shape that we'll use later on in some of our workouts. I want you to get a sense of staying very active through your back legs. You're squeezing your thigh to keep it straight and just gently lowering your pelvis to the floor. So you might feel a bit of a stretch either through the outer part of your hip. Some people will say their hamstring in this position, if not through the front of the hip on the other side. Just holding it here for a little longer. If you can translate more weight to your lower body than holding with your upper body here, that's a goal. We actually want to be able to hold primarily with our lower body in this position. But if you need your upper body a lot, then definitely keep a hold of it. Okay, and lowering the back knee down and reclaiming that front leg. And let's go to the other side. Just going to walk your foot up into the lunge position. Hands to the instep. Make sure the front knee is pulling over the ankle or slightly into the middle of the foot. From there, you're going to walk your back knee back, but this front knee doesn't travel backwards, just the back knee. Opening through the pelvis, turning the back toe under, and then lifting through the back knee, getting it as straight as possible, lowering the pelvis to the floor as much as you can. Holding this position, if you can transfer a little bit of weight out of your upper body, that would be ideal. Think about pushing into the floor with your legs, opening through the hips. All right, and lowering the back knee down and reclaiming that front foot. We're going to now think about positioning our pelvis for the initiation of a hip hinge. We're going to do 2 different movements to think about our pelvis in space. One is a classic down dog. We're going to focus on the position of the pelvis for this down dog today, even though it's a full body exercise and there's lots of joints we could think about, but we're going to focus on the pelvis, and then just a standing hip hinge to finish off the series today. So first of all, we're going to go for the down facing dog. You're going to begin in your 4-point position, so hopefully your wrists have had a bit of a break. You're going to set your shoulder blades down and you're going to think about having a neutral spine, so a flat back spine. Toes are turned under. You're going to take an inhale to prepare. You're going to initiate by lifting into that little hover position that we practiced earlier. Now, I want you to think about having a string attached to your tailbone, and you're going to initiate lifting your hips to the sky. And they're going to keep lifting as you straighten the legs and push with your upper body back into your down facing dog position. This whole time that we're here, I want you to think the tailbone is lifting, and then when you feel comfortable, you're going to think lower the heels to the floor, push back through the upper body, and then gently float back to look in between your hands and lower down through your 4-point hover, nice flat back, and come to the floor. We'll do it 4 times. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, brace, lift into the hover, start lifting through the tailbone, straighten through the legs, lower the heels, and and press back with your upper body. Hold for an inhale. Open back up through your 4-point, lower into the hover, and lower to the floor. 2 to go. Inhale. Exhale, shoulders down. Lift and press back. Lower the heels. Keep lifting that tailbone. Hold for a breath. And open up and lower back down to the mat. One last time. Inhale to prepare. Shoulders down. Lift into the hover. Lift the hips to the ceiling. Lower the heels. Press back. Hold for a breath. And open. And lower down. Okay, so now we're going to think about the hip hinge in standing. What I want you to think about is how we were mobilizing the pelvis. In this next exercise, you want to think about how your pelvis can mobilize over your thigh and your torso stays really, really straight and stable. So what I mean here is, if we think about separating the body into 2 segments, basically from the hips down as one segment and from the hips up as another segment, and they're going to move independent of one another. So our feet are straight and hip width apart. You're going to initiate by hinging at the hips, literally folding your body in half. To do this, you need to think about your pelvis rotating over your thigh, or again, if you can reference your tailbone's lifting up to the sky. So the whole time that you're lowering your chest, your pelvis is rotating and your tailbone is lifting. My back is staying nice and flat here, only going as low as I feel like I can keep my back flat. As soon as I feel like I'm breaking through my spine, I've gone too far. It's a flat back. And then you're going to activate through your hips. So I'm actually going to squeeze my hips a little bit and start driving them forward. As they drive forward, my upper body will naturally hinge back up into a standing position. Okay? Again, we're going to hinge forward, rotating the pelvis, lifting the tailbone. It's helpful to either have your hands on your hips or across your chest as you lower down, only going as far as you can keep a nice flat back, ideally with straight legs. And then engage the glutes, drive the hips forward, and return the hips to the start position. It's nice to go nice and slow here, because you do have to think about the fact that your pelvis is always initiating the movement, and you're not thinking of that your upper body is doing the movement without your pelvis. Lowering, looking over the horizon of the floor is helpful, because it will help you keep your chest nice and open and prevent your upper back from rounding, which is really common. One last time, lowering the body down, looking over the horizon of the floor, keeping the chest open, and driving through the hips to return. So important to think about the hip hinge mechanic, because it's how we lead into our deadlift squat position. And the deadlift squat is one of the most functional movements you're going to learn throughout this entire program, because it gets used in everyday life, from getting in and out of chairs, and certainly when you're lifting any sort of objects or doing general movements that require you to take load on your body, like snow shoveling or something like that. We want them to be driven through our most powerful mechanism in our body, which is our hip hinge mechanic. So we're going to keep our feet hip width apart, and we're going to initiate with a hip hinge into a deadlift squat position. So again, we're breaking our body into 2 halves, and you're going to think, initiate by hinging. And then as you're hinging down, you can begin to soften through the knees. My gaze is just gently coming down the floor until it's hovering out in front of my body. It's still mostly hip hinge. I'm still rotating my pelvis. I'm still thinking of lifting my tailbone. Now I'm feeling quite a bit of stretch through the back of my hamstrings, but higher up as opposed to in the back of my knees. And then again, when I initiate returning, I'm engaging through the hips and I'm driving the hips forward. So the only difference is just a little bit of softening of the knee. So I'm initiating hinging of the hips. I'm keeping the hips high, lifted, tailbone lifted. I'm softening through the knee as I hinge through my body, and then drive through the hips to return. Just 2 more. Hinging forward, softening through the knee, and driving the hips forward. Should always feel like you're using your glutes, hardly anything through your thighs or the rest of your leg, mostly through your hips. That's a deadlift squat. Typically we would do it with weights and loaded, so it should feel like a more intense exercise, but right now we're just learning the mechanic so we can get to use it more in the workouts later on. Thanks for joining me. This was Quick Start Workout number 2.